There's a playbook for how to grow online as a creator. But what if you don't want to follow the rules? Does that mean you can't build a successful business? Khe Hy has been a creator for 8 years. By his own admission, he's not the best at going viral, but still, he's managed to build a viable business around his newsletter, RadReads.
I'm an accidental entrepreneur. So I worked on Wall Street for 15 years, and I had a midlife or hopefully third of a life crisis at 35. And I asked myself, am I really going to do this the rest of my life? Am I going to stay on this hamster wheel? And I looked at people who were 20 years older than me, and I said, like, that's success in that world. I don't want that. And so I chose to opt out, but I didn't have a plan. I just had a plan to do things that I found fun until I ran out of money that I had put aside for this phase. And so the thing that I found fun was writing, blurbing a newsletter, and blurbing turned to writing turned to teaching turned to videos, turned to trainings. And here we are 8 years later.
I mean, right now there's a lot, but I guess it started with the blog and the newsletter. Is that right?
Yes, it started with the newsletter.
And how did you grow that to the point where you could monetize?
Ooh, the monetization question is always a tricky one because I'm not the best person to talk about it because it's taken me so long. It's taken me 8 years to learn how to monetize. But I could talk about it in the sense that there's a few chapters. The first was I wrote the newsletter just for fun. When I wrote the newsletter for fun, what I realized was people started to get an exposure to how I think. And once people started to get exposure to how I think, then a bunch of opportunities showed up. The first one was people said, we like the way you think. Can you help us think this way? And it was specifically around like really being introspective about like, what does it mean to live a happy life? Right. And so they're like, I'm not happy. Can you teach me how to be happy? Because we like your thinking. From that, a little detour, but I got invited to join a media company. And that's where I really learned how to write. So I had this like part-time job. It was like 5% of what I made working on Wall Street, like income wise, but I was learning the ins and outs of digital media.
Yeah.
From that, I started my friend Tiago Forte was like, you have like this crazy, I mean, I don't think it's crazy, but you have this out there philosophy on life. Like you should teach other people how to do it. And so we did these pop-up workshops that were like $99, like 3-hour workshops. And then from there, it turned into probably our biggest product, which is our course, Supercharge Your Productivity, which is a cohort-based course that teaches this hybrid approach of productivity and philosophy. And we've run that course for 12 cohorts. It's done about $1 million of revenue over 2.5 years.
Wow. But you said that people were able to see what you thought through your writing. But how did you actually bring people to your writing in the first place? Because I feel like that's the difficult part about newsletters, is that discoverability.
Yeah. Discoverability is extremely hard. I would say a few things. If you write good stuff, people will forward it. So we've always had a pretty good referral network. I think that accidentally, there were a few breakout moments in the growth of the newsletter. Most of them were related to press and podcasts. And so the biggest one, though, was that on Christmas Eve of 2016, CNN wrote an article about me, a profile that's called me Oprah for Millennials.
Oh, no way.
Funny,
so cool.
I'm a Gen X, not a millennial. So they wrote that piece, and I think I got like 9,000 subscribers overnight, basically. I went from like 1,000 to 9,000 or 10,000. But here's the crazy part. The reason why they wrote that article was because the reporter was a newsletter reader and said, oh, this person seems to have chosen an interesting life path for themselves. And so all these opportunities, now in hindsight, there are things that I would have done differently. And this was a different era. This was like 5 years before Substack, 4 years before Substack. So this was like OG like MailChimp newsletter.
Oh,
era.
wow.
There's definitely many things that I would have done differently. And the rules are kind of different now with like short form and social. Like you really need to have like a social first strategy, even for a newsletter. And I'm not actually, I have ideas on that. I'm not the best at it though.
But what do you think it is about your writing that made people want to actually talk about it and share it?
I think that, I mean, it's going to sound a little bit corny, but it was very authentic. I would say stuff like, have you ever had a conversation with your wife about whether you should still be married? Right. And because we actually had that conversation. And by the way, for those of you listening who are not married, it's very common to have that conversation. And if you don't have that conversation, it's very, 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 very common to have that thought. And so when you say something so bluntly, so matter-of-factly, that 99% of people have thought about and won't say it, and like 50% of them have said it and have dealt with the repercussions of it and know that it's not something that they can talk about, then you instantly create a connection with people. Right? Because you can't make that shit up. You can't make that stuff up. So again, I picked probably one of the more extreme examples. But I try to bring that authenticity, that vulnerability, that like relatability. It's like, yeah, I can do shitty things as a dad sometimes, and I'm not the most reliable friend sometimes, and I beat myself up when I make a mistake sometimes. And I think that writing forced me to have a very keen eye on human nature, and really in like the everydayness, not like Socrates type human nature, but just like, oh, like I know what you're feeling right now, or I have a sense of what you're feeling right now. And that built a connection with the readership and the audience. And
how do you strike that balance then? Because something I struggle with is I'm quite vulnerable as well on YouTube. Like one of my most popular videos is about like the struggles that I've had with friendships. And I get like a lot of comments sometimes about, oh, you're just writing about this to get attention on the internet. Do you know, like that kind of almost sense of entitlement, I guess? Like, how do you strike the balance where you're trying to be relatable without, you know, I don't even know how to explain it, but do you know what I mean? Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think comments hurt everyone. Like mean comments, you could be Kim Kardashian and you will read the comments, like, and they will hurt. So like being hurt by comments is a fundamental part of being human. And we can get into the theory about that, but that's probably not as interesting. But that just, it just happens. Like it's why I hate being on TikTok, because like the comments, I've found them to be the most hurtful on TikTok. And I think it's because I'm older and because I like talk about money and like things like that. And so I think I'm like the meme for like, you know, like the Gen X person with money. And so it's like easy to attack me. Like even when I'm just like making an explainer video about like how mortgages work, they're like, you're the problem why people can't have houses. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, you know, so I think one, just like acknowledging that that's, you know, that like we are humans and it doesn't matter how famous or not famous we are. When someone says something mean to us, it hurts. And then I think from that point, you can go on and like mitigate. Like, you know, for example, I have on my email newsletter, like if I were to do YouTube, I would have someone go through my comments and like delete the ones that are like savage. Like I just to like for my own sanity. Just because the other thing is like, you know, it's very hard to remember, to intellectualize, but like if someone is going to anonymously be mean to you on the internet, like they're the ones that are hurting, not you. Right. But it's human nature. Like you still hurt because you still read the thing. And so I think that, you know, if I were, you know, we get emails, we don't get that many like mean emails, but we do get some. Like I have someone go through the inboxes and if they're mean, they're just like, they just archive. They don't even, I never even know that they exist. Right. It's different. If it's like, if it's constructive criticism, then absolutely. Like, I was watching, there's a bunch of like washed up NBA players and athletes that are like creating new careers on TikTok.
and YouTube and so on. And so we're like around the same age. So I've been watching them, and one of them, Richard Jefferson, he's a retired basketball player. He said, if you have something mean to say to me, text me. Oh, if you don't have my number, that means I don't care.
I love that. That's great. I'm so using that.
About that.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the other thing that can affect you other than comments is also like the content you see online and how that affects your thoughts. So when I go on Twitter, like I follow you on Twitter, you're one of the few people I feel who thinks very differently on things like money and work and things like that, which I find so refreshing. How do you kind of keep your own thoughts and your own perspective when you're flooded by everyone else's thoughts and opinions?
I think it comes back down to like, what is the life that you want to live? Right? If you want to live, look, and I said like, I'm not that good at them, but I could do the listicle. So, 8 things to do to, be rich before you're 25. And I would probably have way more followers, right? They'd be the bad kind of followers because like they ultimately wouldn't, it's not who I am. And so, in the long game, it would be destructive. But so I think it's like, one is like, I want to be a creator. I'm 43. I've been doing this for 8 years. I want to be a creator till I'm like 65. Right. So that means I would be a creator for 30 years, which means that I need to endure the game. Yeah. Right. And so, and I'm not trying to get rich. Like I'm trying to pay my living, like make a living off of it, but I'm not trying to get rich and I'm not trying to get famous, like, Instagram famous in that regards. And so recognizing that, like, if you want to do anything for 30 years, it has to be in alignment with what you stand for. It has to be things that you care about. It has to be with people who support you. It has to be in a way that is genuine to how you feel. It has to be in a way that protects your mental health, right? And so I constantly think about all these things, and I have gone down through phases, like I have gone down this rabbit hole of like trying to do like the corny like tweet threads, and I've tried to go down to like the like the super grabby TikToks, and like I know how to do it, but it doesn't work because it feels disingenuous. When I do it, it feels disingenuous. So when people see it, they know that it's disingenuous. So it's just kind of like, what's the point? Let's just save all of ourselves the hassle and just be like, you do you. But I'll tell you, like, it's a struggle because like I look at like Sahil Bloom, who's a friend of mine, and he is so good at the tweet storms, and like he's so good at it, and he's super talented, and like we're friends, like there's no criticism. He has a 250,000 person newsletter, and no one online had ever heard of him 2 years ago. Crazy. So I can't help and say like, what the fuck? Like I've been doing this for 8 years and I have 40,000 subscribers. Like, and he comes out of nowhere, but he has his strengths. He has his own goals. I don't know what his goals are, but they're probably different than mine. And he has his own life circumstances, right? And he has his own team. And so like, I just need to, and by the way, it's like, I have 40,000 people. Like that's a fucking lot of subscribers to like 99.9%, so 100%. It's like, it would be like me, comparing myself to like Mbappe. And I'm like, why can't I like play as well as Mbappe? It's like, cause you're in a different league as him, and that's okay, but I again, it goes back to the point you made about the YouTube comments. It's like, I'm human too. Like I see people doing what seems like the same thing as me. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not fair. That, and I feel bad about myself. And then I remember, I'm like, you can't, like, you tried the tweet threads thing and it just didn't work for you. Like, so you couldn't do it for like 5 weeks. Like, how on earth would you do it for 5 years, let alone like 25 years? True. No, I think it's good to keep things sustainable, like you said, especially if you want to be a creator for the long run. But I feel like even you are in a different league too. Like a lot of creators. I mean, a lot of people look at you with complete admiration. I mean, I saw a tweet of yours the other day that said that you generated $658,000 in 2022 for RadReads. What were your income streams? So even though you have, I wouldn't even say it's a small audience, but like 40,000 subscribers has translated to that, which is insane. How have you managed to do that? It's crazy because I know people with 20 million followers that can't make 100 grand. Yeah. And I know people with 1,000 followers that can make $1 million.
Crazy.
So it's kind of it's a crazy thing. And thank you. I think, like, it's like the Mbappe thing. It's like you just look at people who are 10 times better,
100%.
a million, and you're like, why can't I be like them? It's like, because you're not trying to be like them, It's like, and so it's so easy to get lost. And like, for every time I look at a Sahil Bloom or a Dickie Bush or a James Clear, and I'm like, why can't I be like them? There's a whole nother set of creators that are like, I can't wait to, be like Khe. And that, again, it comes back to the human nature of it. So for context on that tweet, by the way, it was our best year ever. Those are revenue numbers. So $658,000 in revenue that translates into, I think it was like $250,000 in like revenue to profits. And so I don't have the exact pie chart in front of me, but I think 50% of it was from our cohort-based course, which we might be shutting down. So we could talk about that.
Okay, yeah.
50% of it was from our cohort-based course. And then 15% of it was from a community, a paid community that comes from the cohort-based course. And then the rest was sponsorships, was the biggest remainder, email sponsorships. And then there's like random, we had a consulting business that we shut down. And then like miscellaneous, like a little bit of public speaking.
Okay, so let's talk about why you're shutting like big revenue streams down. So what's happening with that?
We grew really quickly during the pandemic. And because it was the golden, you look at Peloton, you look at Zoom, like we were like, everyone wanted to take our courses and so on. And so even though we had our best year revenue wise, our costs got really out of control. We had a team of 5. I built a team of 5 people. And in that same article, I had to share that, I let go of 3 people, some of them like within months of making them full-time employees. So they were like contractors, full-time employee for like 3 weeks laid off. And I think this is another mistake that people online make, is they always talk about revenue numbers, but they don't talk about cost numbers. It's like, you can make $1 million, but if you have $900,000 of expenses, like, who cares, right? I mean, it's still $100,000. Or you can make $100,000 with $5,000 of expenses. So, in that case, the trends for that business, it was basically like, looks like Zoom stock chart. It like skyrockets during the pandemic and starts to like really crash in the middle of last year, the middle of 2022. So that our costs got out of control and our revenue was starting to come down. So even though the aggregate number for the year was really good, the trend was actually very bad. Like the course kept going. Like the biggest cohort was like January of 2021. That was like $140,000 in like 1 month, wow. 1 4-week cohort. And then that same cohort 2 years later was 40,000.
Wow. Okay.
So I was basically getting ahead of the revenue decline and the costs going up. And so from there, we just kind of like, everything happened so quickly. And I kind of went back to the drawing board and said, cohort-based courses were really a thing of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Where people were like, I have 45 hours of free time to just get on pointless Zoom calls and just talk to friends like for hours and hours and hours. And just the reality is people don't have that. They don't have that time anymore. So because they don't have that time anymore, that's not an interesting product to them anymore in that format. So what that means though, is that we just need to go back to the drawing board. Cause like, as you said, we've got a great following. We have a loyal following. We have people who know what we stand for. And we want to basically think about how to redesign our business around that in a way that's more sustainable with a much smaller team. Again, I'd rather have, to use that extreme example, I'd rather have the $100,000 business with $5,000 of expenses than the $1 million business with $900,000 of expenses.
Yeah.
Because that bigger one has a tremendous amount of complexity to it.
Yeah. And how do you figure that out? How do you figure out what's the right fit for your audience, for your next revenue stream?
It's brutal. It's it's really, really difficult. It's a few things. You have to, and this is where we're not particularly good at. you have to understand the pains of your audience. So that's the first thing. You have to understand the pains of your audience. And that's not easy, right? Because, we struggle a little bit because we're such generalists. Like we talk about career change, we talk about money, we talk about growing your social audience. It's like those are very different pains for different groups of people. So you have to understand the pain point of your audience, right? Are they looking to change careers because they're like really unhappy in their job? Or are they overwhelmed by the amount of email that they get? Or are they not being the best parents that they could be because they're constantly on their phones, right? So you have to really we have these documents of these, and this comes from customer research, talking to your customers, testing things out on social and blogging and seeing which videos do well. There's all this analysis to it. Some of it you just kind of look at it and make educated guesses, and other times you actually really specifically, analyze this theme of video gets the most comments. That means that there's something there. So once you understand the pain points, then you have to design the solution, right? So if someone's pain is I can't grow my newsletter, they might be a RadReads reader. Someone else's pain might be, I hate my job, I need to get out. They might be a RadReads reader as well. So then you need to, they're obviously very different pains. So then you have to pick which direction you're going to go, right? And so we've always said we're not in the business of helping other people make more money. That's not, we don't want to teach people marketing. We don't want to teach people how to launch courses. We want to get closer to the actual pain than the meta pain of help people.
Yeah.
And so let's say it's helping people leave a job that they don't like, right? So we might write a series of content on it and just see are people responding to this? Are they clicking? Are they sharing it? We might make a bunch of tweets around different angles on that. And are people retweeting? Are people commenting on it? We might do a free event that's hey, Khe quit his job on Wall Street and he's going to answer any of your questions. And we might see how many people will attend a free event. Then we might say we'll do a paid workshop, $99, can we get 100 people to pay $99, right? And it's a long process because oftentimes you're wrong about your thesis.
Yeah.
And so then you need to pivot. But again, that's that just assumes that you're going to sell solutions to people's problems. That's a business model. You will pay me and I will solve your problem. You could do it through coaching. You could do it through courses. You could do it through a book, right? A book is kind of solving someone's problem. But there's whole other models, right? It's well, what if we just get tons of people to follow us and then we just sell sponsorships?
Yeah.
Right? That's a different model. But that means we already established that Khe in particular is not like Dickie Bush, where he could just push a button and just add 10,000 newsletters. I was doing the math. It will probably take us, if we continue at our pace, we'll add 18,000 newsletter subscribers this year, which is great, but it's 40 to 68, 58. It's not if you're selling sponsorships, you're making the same amount of sponsorship money.
Yeah.
At between 40 and 58, right? You need 100 to get into a whole nother stratosphere. And so then the question is well, do we know how to get to 100? And that's its own set of quick conversation, because then you're back to the question about writing tweet threads and doing all that. So it's kind of like a game of, I don't know if this game. Or you're in England?
Yeah.
In the UK?
Yeah.
Like whack-a-mole, at Carnival.
Yeah,
it's like a game of whack-a-mole. It's you figure out your customer's pain, but then they don't want to pay for it. And then, or they tell you the thing they want to pay for, but you don't want to create it. Or you realize that you need a different business model, but then you have to do all these activities that you don't want to do to support that business model. So it's this kind of, which is why if you want to do this for 30 years, it's gotta be sustainable, right?
Very true.
Those questions come up all the
100%.
time. They are not there. But again, they're not easy to answer. But if you find joy in the process of it all, then you have the best shot of doing it, and you have the best shot of doing it in a sustainable way.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. There's so many challenges when it comes to being a creator. How do you try and balance both those things? So growing the audience versus growing a business model. Are you trying to do both at one time, or are you always focusing on one or the other?
There's an interesting lever in all this is that you can always be a creator and then do time for money, meaning coaching and like one-on-one work, consulting, and so on. So that's always kind of in the sphere of, it's like always in the equation, and it's kind of a dial that's much easier to like turn up and to turn down, right? So right now we are pausing on our courses, but we just turn the dial up a little bit on coaching.
Okay.
And so that will give us income to like make it to the next, like as we figure out what's next. So there's always like the different dials to push. I fundamentally believe like we are creators. And so as creative people, you have to put your best creative work out there. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I've dialed down our revenues like engine right now, but I've dialed up our creative engine. So like I went from writing, 500 word essays on the weekends, and my last 2 essays have been like 3,000.
Oh, wow.
So they're much longer. They use, 500 words will take me 2 hours. 3,000 words will take me like 8 hours, like a day and probably more, like 10, 12 hours. So there's a change there. Again, you're not going to see it in money terms, but if you're consistently putting out 3,000 word essays, like the right people are reading, and people are reading them, like you're deepening that connection. Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way we play with the different dials. And then there's always this other dial, which is like, top of funnel. It's like, how do people, 3,000 word essay, it's like, it's for your people, right? There's not new people finding it that often. Like, mm-hmm. And 3,000 word essays usually don't go viral. So then it takes us back up to the top of funnel question, which is, it's where we struggle. It's like, how do you communicate your more deeper, nuanced, you asked the question in a slightly different way. How do you communicate your more deeper, more nuanced ideas in a way that is not super transactional, super clickbaity, super disingenuous? And we haven't figured that out. But one of our creative projects right now is to find a way. It's like, how can I do shorts and TikTok videos that are not so candy, right? It's like, we don't want to like serve you broccoli on TikTok because literally no one's on TikTok for broccoli. But like maybe we could serve you like a lightly salted almond or something, as opposed to like everyone else that's just like jelly bean, jelly bean, jelly bean, jelly bean, jelly bean, jelly bean, right? And so that's a creative challenge. I don't know if we'll crack the code. Like it's been 3 months and we have not had much success in our lightly salted almond content. But again, we're having fun. It's I never did video other than live events, and it is a great way to learn editing. It's a 100%. Great way to learn storytelling without the huge upfront cost of YouTube. Yeah. And so we're building a new skill. People are finding us. It's not at the crazy rate that, you would think. You hear the stories of, Alex Earl and that kind of stuff. But people are finding us. But most importantly, we're having fun. We're learning a new method of creativity, a new vehicle of storytelling. And if you trust that you're getting better at that, like it will work out.
Yeah. And I know you don't like being necessarily boxed in by a single niche or topic, but I feel like on Twitter especially, you're quite well known for the 10K work method. What is that? Like, how do you describe that to people?
Yeah, the 10K work method is a way to be strategically lazy. And so it really starts with a fundamental premise about productivity that people miss, which is that all tasks are not created equally. Right. So someone might say, oh, I can like respond to Slack messages for the next 20 minutes, or I could work on a long shot book proposal for 20 minutes, which is exactly what I did leading up to this call. I put my laptop on Wi-Fi, and I'm like, I am working on a book proposal right now. And I did it for an hour. And like that hour was so dense in ideation and potential. Yeah. But it was also it's like so non-dopamine rewarding, right? Like I finished it, like I didn't even have anyone to share it with, right? And so 10K work is basically that idea that not all tasks are created equally. And you have to have this portfolio of these like quick dopamine inducing tasks, like replying to your email and so on. You have to do that. That's $10 work. $100 work is like setting up systems and like being more efficient and like how you do things. But efficiency will not make you more creative, right? You know that as a YouTuber, it's like efficiency helps for sure. And if you're an inefficient YouTuber, it's going to be penalizing and brutal. But if you're the most efficient YouTuber, it doesn't make you a better storyteller. It doesn't improve your camera presence. It doesn't improve like this, right? So then you get into $1,000 work, which is the thing you're good at. So it's like being a YouTuber, right? Or being on camera. And the skills that come with that, again, camera presence, storytelling, editing, like things like that. And then there's the 10K work, which is like, well, like, do I have a niche, or like, how do people talk about me, or how will people find me, or do I use unique formats to like draw people in, or is my strength in editing and cinematography? That is like the strategy of your YouTube channel would be your 10K work. So everyone needs to sprinkle their work across the 4 quadrants. There's no like one like don't do only $10 work, which is kind of like that low value work. Yeah. But sprinkle it across the 4 quadrants, and especially that 10K work, which is really planting seeds for the future and really thinking strategically about your life and your business and your relationships, anything that's important in your life, so that you make sure you get the most out of your life.
And how have you then applied that to your own business when you've also got team members and, you know, you're quite busy? Like, how do you balance, you know, the different areas of work across a team even?
It's it's a great question. It's not easy. I think that the most powerful thing is that we have a shared language. So we'll go into a meeting and we're like, that's $10 work. Like we were debating some little editing thing for a little bit too long. And we're like, this is $10 work. We need to stop talking about this.
Yeah.
Right. And then we'll go on the opposite side of things where it's like, you know, let's use like our short form video strategy, where we're just like, for months, we just like pumped out videos with no like cohesion. We're just like trying stuff. So the 10K work we said today is like, okay, we're going to optimize for one thing for the next month. How do we get the most comments? How do we create videos that will get the most comments? Because then we're going to reply to comments with more with like videos, which has probably been the one insight that I've had on TikTok that was like, oh, wow. Like the most growth I ever got was replying to a comment with a video. And so again, that was the strategy. So now the strategy is like, okay, we're going to create videos for the purpose of attracting comments for a month. Yeah. That's a 10K. That's a strategy. Then we'll go back in and then we'll like go ideate on the videos, script them, film them, edit them, reply to comments on them. Then it's going to get all these different levers. So we do a lot of thinking in our company. So we call them 10K brainstorms. So where someone will, think of it as it's a Notion document, but like think of a Google Doc that's like, what experiments should we do on video shorts this month? And then all those people will comment on it. And then we'll go for round 2 and we'll like distill the comments. And so we're like, okay, this month is all about engagement. Next month's going to be all about skits, like, because skits can communicate nuance. And that's actually something we're really excited about, because we are nuance. Like that's our strength, is nuance. Yeah. And the skit is actually like a jelly bean way of communicating nuance to people. Yeah. And so we're like, well, let's lean, but they're much harder. They're much harder to write. They're much harder to edit. So we always come up to these documents, these 10K, and we make time to think. And then we'll like turn them into these like smaller implementation plans. And then if someone's like, oh, there was way too much $10 work, we're like, oh, like, can we hire a contractor to help us do this? Or do we even need to do this? Like we were debating, should we put, so a few people have told us that you want to caption the videos inside the platform. And we're like, we can't do that. That's like too much $10 work. And like, maybe there's like a little algo boost from doing that. But we're not like, we can't play that game. We will lose that game because it's too much $10 work for our business. Yeah. And so again, that shared language, that constant reevaluation.
Yeah. No, that's great. So I'm going to end now with a quick fire round. So I'm going to ask you some questions that I ask every creator that comes on air, starting with, what's your favorite thing about being a creator?
Oh, my favorite thing is that every day is different.
Yeah,
And I am the kind of person, like, I don't like Starbucks. I don't like fast food because, like, I don't want things to be the same every day. I love when they're different every day.
Yeah. No, I like that. And what's your favorite tool to help you create?
Favorite tool to help me create?
Or as a creator. So like just something that helps you with the creative business.
We're probably like skewing a little bit towards video these days. So I'm going to say Descript.
Oh, okay.
It's been like a very powerful bridge from zero experience to video and editing to like being able to make respectable videos without wanting to, pull your hair out.
Yeah. And what gives you the most inspiration for what you create?
Reading paper books.
Yeah, I like reading paper books too.
No laptop, no, not even Kindle. Just like
Same.
Pen and paper, folding stuff, scribbling, sticky notes. Like,
yeah, old school. I like it. And what's something that helps you with your creator work-life balance?
Being a dad.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, nice. And what's one piece of advice that you would give to other creators?
Follow the things that make you come alive. Because I know that we all, myself included, we want to chase the trend, chase the hot new thing, chase the format that gets the most followers. And like, by all means, do that, experiment with that. But if that becomes your raison d'être, then you're never going to survive.
No, that's great. Thank you so much for coming on air. Honestly, it's been such a refreshing conversation because I feel like authenticity is obviously such a strong value for you, and that has obviously shown up in your creations and in your business. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to all the listeners. The pleasure was mine.
I love how Khe is making his creator journey sustainable by following his values, embracing the challenges, and considering what 10K work looks like. You can find Khe on radreads.co, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you are a creator and you want to do sponsorships the easy way, check out Passion Fruit. I'll see you in the next one.